A State of the Union amid remarkable turmoil and concern. Politik Deutschland.
President Trump will deliver his first State of the Union address Tuesday at 9 p.m. EST. The New York Times will be streaming the speech live on this page and on the home page.
Follow our coverage for the latest updates and analysis.
The president will arrive at the Capitol amid remarkable tumult, anger that he has declined to impose sanctions on Russia and worry over a Republican memo on the origins of the Russia investigation.
On the Republican side, some conservatives worry that advance pledges of bipartisanship from the White House means he will deliver a soft speech.
Are we facing a constitutional crisis?
The Trump administration's announcement on Monday that it would not impose sanctions on countries that buy Russian military equipment sparked an angry response in Congress, where the Senate and House overwhelmingly approved the sanctions to punish Russia for interfering in the 2016 election. Senator Claire McCaskill, Democrat of Missouri who faces a difficult re-election campaign this year, set the tone with a blast on Twitter.
That concern is bipartisan, at least in some quarters of the Republican Party.
Senator Susan Collins, Republican of Maine, was flummoxed by the administration's decision.
That bill passed with only 2 dissenting votes in the Senate. It was not partisan in the least, she said on CNN.
The one thing we know for sure already is the Russians did attempt to meddle in our elections, and not only should there be a price to pay in terms of sanctions, but also we need to put safeguards in place right now for the elections for this year, because we know that the Russians have not given up on their disinformation campaign and their attempt to sow discord in this country and also to undermine faith in democratic institutions.
Testifying before a Senate panel on Tuesday morning, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said his department had followed instructions under the sanctions law and drawn up a list of Russian targets for sanctions.
An imposition of sanctions could still follow. Continue reading the main story.
Advertisement.
Continue reading the main story.
Senator Bob Corker, Republican of Tennessee and one of the authors of the sanctions legislation, declined to criticize the administration's actions.
He did say, "I look forward to the implementation of the sanctions."
Speaker Ryan weighs in on Russia memo.
Speaker Paul D. Ryan of Wisconsin spent part of the morning before Mr. Trump's speech tamping down expectations about a secretive Republican memo that some House members have claimed contains evidence that could undercut the Russia investigation. In a closed-door meeting of House Republicans this morning, Mr. Ryan implored his fellow lawmakers not to overstate the facts of the memo, which the House Intelligence Committee voted to release Monday night. And he urged them not to tie the contentious document, which Democrats call dangerously misleading, to the work of the special counsel, Robert S. Mueller III, according to a person in the room.
Mr. Ryan reiterated some of those points during a public news conference an hour later, saying that he had faith in the FBI
and Justice departments broadly, and that he thought Deputy Attorney General Rod J. Rosenstein, the man overseeing the Russia investigation, was doing a fine job. Still, Mr. Ryan defended the Republicans' overall approach, saying that they were following proper processes and that only transparency would lead to accountability at the agencies.
That was not enough to quiet the most ardent proponents of the notion that federal law enforcement agents have conspired to bring down the Trump White House. Representative Matt Gaetz, Republican of Florida, called on the president to release the memo during the State of the Union.
The State of the Union guest list.
The White House released on Monday the list of people President Trump and his wife, Melania, invited to attend the State of the Union address.
An eclectic cohort will join the First Lady, emergency medical workers, service members and faces of Mr. Trump's tax and immigration overhaul narratives.
Here are a few of the people you'll see.
David Dahlberg, a fire prevention technician, who saved 62 children and staff members from a blaze-encircled summer camp in July during the wildfires in Southern California.
Officer Ryan Holitz, of the Albuquerque Police Department, who, according to the White House, was twice shot at during his time as an officer.
He and his wife adopted a child from parents who were addicted to opioids.
Steve Staub and Sandy Keplinger, who are the leaders of a Dayton, Ohio, contract manufacturing company focused on metal fabrication.
They founded Staub Manufacturing Solutions 2 decades ago.
Over the past year, the company acquired a new building and saw a 60% increase in employees, from 23 to 37.
Crediting the passage of the tax law, the company gave large Christmas bonuses to all employees.
Four parents whose daughters, the authorities say, were most likely killed by members of the MS-13 gang, Elizabeth Alvarado and Robert Mickens, who lost Nisa Mickens, 15, and Evelyn Rodriguez and Freddie Cuevas, who lost Kayla Cuevas, 16. The teenagers were killed in 2016 on Long Island. Voices from speechwriters past.
Jonathan Horn, speechwriter for former President George W. Bush, has these thoughts.
That's part of the problem for Donald Trump going into the State of the Union. He could come out with a very traditional State of the Union, and for a normal president, that would help set the agenda for at least, maybe a few weeks. In Washington, you'd plan other policy speeches to follow up on certain aspects of the State of the Union, and there would be an entire rollout around the State of the Union.
I think with this president, you would expect it would be much shorter.
Even if there is a surprise, oh, look, Donald Trump sounded presidential, but then the next day there could be a tweet, and then, work on a very, very long speech is overshadowed by a 280 characters.
That's my one prediction.
In some sense, whatever he ultimately says is overshadowed by a 280-character tweet.
Michael Waldman, president of the Brennan Center for Justice at NYU.
School of Law and a speechwriter for former President Bill Clinton, also weighed in.
The power of that podium is not just the audience watching.
It's the sense that the president is somebody who speaks for the whole country. And the way he has governed over the past year has been so filled with denunciations and racial division and flat-out falsehoods that he doesn't have a lot in the tank when it comes to credibility for anybody who isn't already an avid supporter.
Often, these State of the Union addresses can be a time when the panoply of the presidency can give whoever the president is, sort of, a second chance with a lot of people.
I'd be surprised if that's the case here.
Cody Keenan, chief speechwriter for former President Barack Obama, also had concerns.
President Obama always wanted to close his State of the Union addresses with an argument about the state of our politics.
You know, what can we do to make them better?
What can we do to be better citizens? I always remember reading criticisms the next day, certainly from the left, saying why is he wasting real estate in the speech on that?
It's never going to happen.
Well, that's part of leadership.
You know, there's a vision of what we should be, even if the odds of us getting there in 1 year or 8 years is pretty slim. Democrats turn to a Kennedy to respond.
He's a fresh face with an old name.
Representative Joseph P. Kennedy III, Democrat of Massachusetts, will deliver the official Democratic response to the president, marking something of a national emergence for the 37-year-old, earnest, diffident third-term congressman. It's a tough act. The response by the party out of power has often fallen flat.
And this time, Mr. Kennedy will have competition.
Representative Maxine Waters, the firebrand Democrat from Southern California, will deliver a different response on BET.
Senator Bernie Sanders, the Vermont independent with a loyal following on the left, will respond on Facebook.